The Boston County Courthouse was a gleaming monument to a justice I no longer believed in. I pushed through the heavy oak doors, each click of my heels on the marble floor a war drum, a countdown to the final severing. I saw them instantly. My parents. The word was a foreign object in my mouth, ash on my tongue. Linda, my mother, was a masterpiece of calculated grief, her hand resting on her attorney's sleeve, a smirk playing on her lips. Mark, my father, stood apart, checking his Rolex, a man perpetually impatient with the emotional wreckage he left in his wake. "Look who finally showed up," Linda Stage whispered, her voice dripping with a venomous sweetness. "Our abandoned daughter graces us with her presence." The irony was a physical blow. I, the one left behind at 4 months old, was now the abandoner. I said nothing. I walked past them, their whispers like wasps at my back, and took my seat at the defendant's table. The bailiff's voice cut through the tension. "All rise." The Honorable Judge Robert Reynolds presiding. As the judge took the bench, his eyes scanned the room, and I saw the moment he recognized me. A flicker of shock, then confusion. "Assistant District Attorney Carter. Unusual to see you on that side of the courtroom." "Yes, Your Honor," I replied, my voice a blade of ice. "Family matters bring us all to unexpected places." Behind me, the air went still. I glanced back. The color had drained from my father's face. The smirk on my mother's had vanished. They didn't know. In all their plotting, in all their arrogant assumptions, they had never once bothered to find out what had become of the daughter they had discarded. They had no idea I had become a prosecutor in the very city they lived in, and a damn good one. The power imbalance they had been counting on had just evaporated. Suddenly, I was no longer in that courtroom. I was 4 months old, bundled in my grandmother Margaret's arms as she pleaded with her own daughter. "It's just for a few months, Mom," Linda promised, her eyes already on the open road. "Just until we get established." A few months became 22 years. 22 years of empty chairs at school plays, of obligatory hollow holiday appearances. 22 years of my grandparents, Margaret and Charles, raising me as their own. Charles, a retired judge, taught me about justice. Margaret taught me about love. They were my true north, the compass of my life. When Margaret died, my parents arrived late to the funeral, Linda complaining about her dress. That was the day I promised my grandmother's memory that I would make her proud. That was the day I accepted that my real family was the one that chose me, not the one that birthed me. Judge Reynolds' voice pulled me back to the present. "Miss Carter, will you be represented by counsel?" Before I could answer, their lawyer, Miles Archer, rose. "Your Honor, we question Miss Carter's competence to manage such substantial assets." I almost pitied them. They were fighting a war they had already lost. "For the record, Your Honor," I said, my voice ringing with a clarity that silenced the room, "I will be represented by Evan Mitchell. And I prosecuted 3 successful fraud cases before your bench last month. Competence will not be an issue." The real battle had begun a month prior, in the hollow quiet of my grandfather's Charles study. In a hidden box, I found his ledgers, meticulous, handwritten records of every dollar my parents had bled from him. For 22 years, they had received $2,500 a month, a steady stream of guilt money that totaled over $660,000. It wasn't support. It was extortion, veiled in saccharine emails and crocodile tears. "Daddy, I miss you but can't afford the trip," one email read, sent from a yacht in the Mediterranean. "Mom always said you loved Josephine more than me," another whined, a master class in manipulation. They hadn't seen him as a father. He was their personal ATM. As dawn broke that first morning, I found a sealed envelope in his desk marked with my name. My dearest Josephine, his familiar script read, "If you're reading this, they've already begun their pursuit. Remember what I taught you. Justice isn't always found in courtrooms. Sometimes it's in standing firmly for truth. They know you are the best of me, which is why they fear you." The next few weeks were a blur of calculated warfare. They launched a smear campaign, planting stories in the Globe, painting me as a cold, manipulative villain. They sent anonymous tips to the Attorney General's office, questioning my ethics. They even had my father approach my boss, raising concerns about my emotional stability. But for every attack they launched, an ally from my grandfather's life emerged. His former law clerk, his housekeeper for 15 years, his colleagues on the bench, all came forward with evidence of his sharp mind and their predatory behavior. They had underestimated not just me, but the legacy of the man who raised me. The final day in court was a masterpiece of controlled demolition. I took the stand, not as their daughter, but as the executor of my grandfather's will. I presented a lifetime of their absence, the empty chairs at every graduation, the generic holiday cards, the 22 years of broken promises. Then the final devastating blow, a video deposition Charles had recorded months before his death. He appeared on the courtroom screens, his eyes sharp, his voice unwavering. He declared, "I leave my estate to my granddaughter, Josephine," not out of confusion, but with clarity of purpose. "Linda, if you're watching this, know that I loved you. But you chose absence. Josephine chose loyalty. The law recognizes both blood and choice, and so did I." Linda let out a choked sob. The judge delivered his ruling without hesitation. The will was upheld. The lawsuit was deemed frivolous at best, predatory at worst. The plaintiffs would be responsible for all attorneys' fees. As we left the courthouse, Linda rushed toward me, her face a mess of performative tears. "Josie," she pleaded, grabbing my arm as cameras flashed around us, "I'm your mother." I turned to face her, the entire world, our audience. "Margaret was my mother. You just gave birth." She collapsed into a heap of Chanel and broken lies. My father simply walked away. A year later, I stood in that same courthouse, a judge's robe resting on my shoulders. The inheritance they had coveted now funds the Carter Fund, a scholarship for children raised by their grandparents. The letter from Linda arrived yesterday offering a reconciliation now that I am someone of importance. My response was brief. "I wish you well, but our paths diverged long ago." The revenge was never about the money. It was about honoring the man who chose me. It was about proving that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up. And in the end, the only legacy they had left was a cautionary tale, a lesson in a courtroom that their own daughter now commands. Justice, as my grandfather taught me, is a choice we make every day. An absolutely incredible story of legacy, loyalty, and the ultimate triumph of chosen family over biological ties. What a powerful reminder that justice isn't always about what happens in a courtroom. What do you think? Was this the perfect karmic conclusion? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe in the power of standing firmly for the truth, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more unforgettable stories where the scales of justice are finally balanced. Thanks for watching.